morning. Board will come to order at 7:02. Please rise for the flag. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have an agenda in front of you.
Why don't we go ahead and call the roll?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead and call the roll.
I missed that on here for the second time. All right, Lemieux?
Here.
St. John is not here. Patterson?
Here.
De Palma? Here. And Belkey is here. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Dennis.
Okay, thank you. So you have before you an agenda. If you want to review it, and if we have any comments or a motion to approve the agenda.
And just because of a lot of paper, it gets confusing. That's the one that's Thursday, 11 April. And I do have one change to make. If you look down at the minute approval, which is towards the bottom, it says approved minutes of regular semi-annual ZBA. I started changing that today. I see I didn't get through all of it. That should be approved minutes of the ZBA appeal hearing of 29 February 2024. So if you just make that change on your paperwork, that's what you're going to be approving.
ZBA hearing.
And you've got those minutes in front of you someplace or in your packet, and we'll look at those after we have our appeal discussion.
So as far as approving the agenda, do we need to add that we added roll call?
It would be, we can say as amended, and then I'll take it
roll
from
call,
there.
added hearing, yeah.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the agenda for the Thursday, 11 April 2024 ZBA meeting as amended with roll call.
Second.
We have moved
Patterson
and seconded.
and De Palma.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, we approved the agenda. General board chair comments. Basically, we're going to review or continue on the meeting that we had a month and a half ago. We have the appeal, we have remarks all the way down. We can actually open up a public hearing again. I think that's probably a good thing.
Yes.
So we should add that to an open public hearing.
It's third bullet down.
We have a motion to open the public hearing.
I so move at 7:05.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, any comments that we have on the question of the variance? Any comments from you?
Nothing
No.
further.
Nothing new? Okay. Anything from the audience? No?
I do have a question. Tom, you guys, and Heidi, you gave us comments from your communications with the building inspector, code enforcer. We got a packet. Just a question. I thought when you guys had showed me some of the phone text messages, those were from the December time frame, and these pick up, if I've got these in order here, kind of in May, April, May. Did you have something? You know, I've got phone records that go through December, but you had showed us some text messages. I just wondering, do you guys have those, or are you able to?
I still have the messages from
Okay,
Gary. I thought I printed them.
When I looked at your phone, I wasn't looking at the date as much as what the context and content was. So I do have what you've handed out, and I noticed that I didn't see anything. So but I thought those messages were from the December timeframe, which was,
No, the December timeframe was the phone conversation.
yeah, and I think you
Yeah.
showed me,
Yep.
I mean, you have them if we need to see them again.
I printed those out and gave them
Yeah,
to the
you saw them,
secretary. Those were just my conversation with him and with Becky the day prior.
Gotcha, but what I'm seeing here though are actual messages, communication that you printed out that starts, I want to say starts in May.
May 25th.
Okay, so that's the first real email conversation or text message?
Text, yeah.
Text message.
The rest of the stuff was verbal, and then we said, I told them, don't have another verbal conversation, put everything through text, because obviously now they're backpedaling, so make sure you get everything now in text message.
Okay,
Previously, we hadn't had to go through text messages because everything was verbal and worked just fine. So then, when this was coming to it, and they said they didn't remember the phone call, and then we were like, what is going on? Then I said, stop calling and do everything through text. Well, that's what the attorney said to do.
okay,
Yeah, because
all right.
the attorney said,
And I
No,
talked
no
to Tom
more
a few
communicating
times
through right.
in between all that.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
said, no
well, and I
more
can,
communicating through verbal because it's not, they're not. So the attorney said to make sure you put everything now in text messages.
right. And so, let me see if I can relate back to you what I think we got at the last meeting, which was, you had conversations on the 13th and 14th of December with Tom. Just as an aside, we asked for statements of record from the administrative clerk, Becky, from Gary Mortos, from Tom Urban, because they were involved, and another village council member who was involved in this. And
Who was that? I don't remember speaking with another. I remember coming to presidential.
you had conversations with the village council president.
Yeah.
So we asked for statements from all of those people. We did get some information back from Becky. Didn't get anything back from anybody else. Gary Mortos has resigned his position, so he's no longer with the village now as a building inspector. Puts us at a bit of a disadvantage. The reason for requesting statements for record is to try to get the other side of the story. So what you guys have related is that you had conversations with Gary, looks like on the 14th, where you talked about the structure and what your intention was. I don't know if you talked the zoning component of it, where it was going to sit, how far over it was going to be. You know, we have a zoning ordinance and a building inspector there to, I don't want to put my feelings out there, but to guide residents and businesses through the process. So we have a process. We want people to adhere to the process. It doesn't appear that Gary adhered to the process. The first thing he should have told you is, sounds great, stop now, put in a site plan, let me review it, because he would review for any building information. I see the footers and you know, how you laid the rafters out and all that looks pretty bulletproof. He should have also looked at where the structure was going to lie in relation to the property lines and see what the setback requirements were and so on. Does not appear that that happened, but we don't have Gary here to ask. Right? We've got your statements that he told you it was okay, and but to then submit a site plan at some point. And it sounds like, and I know you
wasn't told that it was okay, there's no way I would put something like that up on Main Street.
well, I know you're a builder, so I suspect you probably know that too. And I've got there's information in the messages here that allude to the fact that he told you it was okay. So, I don't disbelieve you. I'm just trying to get clear in my head, and then there proceeds to be a number of back and forths over a period of a year of, okay, what are we doing, letters and so on. And, you know, the village should have, I think very quickly got its hands around this, or its arms around this issue, and tried to resolve it. Doesn't appear that they necessarily did that. It took a long period of time. I mean, this is a year and a quarter later, because you started in December of 2022. Okay, so so I appreciate that you don't have any text messages or anything from the December of 2022. He told you it was okay to, construction plans looked okay, or what you described looked okay, and then you went ahead, it sounds like very quickly thereafter, and put everything in. I don't recall the weather, but I'm assuming it was good weather, and...
Yeah, I think we had 3 good days in a row, and that's when it went up.
Yeah. So, again, without Gary here, I can't ask him, was it your intent that Tom wasn't gonna, and Heidi weren't gonna do anything until the site plan came in, but he's not here to ask, right, that question. You were damn efficient, and you dug your footers and you put everything in. I assume they're concreted in. Yeah.
We had 4 feet in the ground with pictures of a tape measure going into the ground.
Got the pictures. So this, you know, Gary is a building guy, and so he probably, you know, he probably thought he knew what he was doing too, and yeah, construction looks good, you can go ahead with that, get a site plan in. The problem, and I would say, you probably got within his planning window because you did it very quickly. Nothing necessarily wrong with that, if he'd given you an okay. I don't see any other message traffic from Gary until February, March. Did you talk to him at all after that?
You know what, I don't remember. I probably did. But it would have been in regards to the letter I got from
Tom.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have been about the building because it was already up.
Yeah, but that was May, so I'm just, you know, I would have, again, it's, I don't want to beat on Gary because he's not here to defend himself, but...
Well, he had a choice to be here and he's not here, because he knows that if he would be sitting here, he'd be lying if he said anything else than what we're saying. So that's why he's not here. I mean, we're all grown-ups and professionals, and he's not here.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why he's not here.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have to be here tonight because he's...
No, but, or he could have given written statements, he could have, I mean...
That's, Heidi, that's where I have to agree with you on that, because he had an opportunity, we asked twice, and we didn't get anything. And I see his comments in here that he approved construction. So whether he didn't know that he should have told you, construction looks good, but I need a site plan before you do anything, to either himself look at it or have planning look at it to make sure it met planning and zoning requirements. So
to boil it down, we've got one side of the story, we're not getting the other side of the story. That's not happening, right?
Yeah, we're not, probably not going to get it. I don't know what our ability is to, I mean, we're a semi-judicial body, to be honest about it, but I don't know what our ability is to reach out and get him to come back in and talk about it. I don't know that it's, I don't know that it matters at this point. Thoughts from anybody else? I just wanted to see if there were any text messages that we didn't see.
So the effort has been put out to get the village's side of the story, and there doesn't appear to be one. So, I don't know, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
We got one side.
Any other thoughts that you have? If not, we'll close and have the discussion.
Any other comments from the members? They need a motion to close the public hearing?
I would make a motion then to close the public hearing I assume that's the right time.
7:17.
7:17?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, give me 1 second to catch up here. Okay, that's... Okay.
So the next step would be board approval, appeal, discussion, and decision. So any more discussion? Like you said, we don't have the other side. We do know, the facts of the matter are that a structure was built without a permit. Clearly, it was never ever issued. It might have been a verbal approval, but there was never a permit ever issued on this project. That's kind of where my dilemma is, saying yes to this. Because, you want to be fair about it, then you go, well, why didn't you apply for a permit and then actually have it issued? Just this thing, saying it was okay is one thing, that's nice, but you need a set of plans and actually look at it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, there's a rush, for sure, but I don't know what the rush would have been in this case.
I'd say with all due respect, does that really matter though? I mean, if these folks have talked to a building inspector and he said, everything looks good, you're approved, without knowing what Gary meant by that and without him directly telling these guys, that's great, but stop, don't do anything until
we can second guess what Gary should have said or would have said.
Yeah.
But the whole point is it wasn't done. So at that point, it should have said, you get a fill out a permit, let's look at the plans, and then
Yeah.
at least get that on, down. That's the important thing, and it's kind of a dilemma for me to say, yeah, that you guys are nice people and all that, and a nice structure, but to say, yeah, what happens in the future when somebody else says, well, Mackey built it, why don't we build it? It's kind of a bad precedent.
My concern about it though is the village sets up these processes to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen. And then if we don't manage our own process well and we fail to do our part, I mean, the whole thing could have been resolved right then at that time. If Gary just would have said, get your site plan in so I can review it, and construction looks good, but I gotta check it against the zoning ordinance. Once that's done, we'll get you moving, I'll help you expedite. But he didn't do that, or we don't know that he didn't do that, and after asking for a couple statements, I got nothing.
But we do know that a permit was never filled out and issued. We do know that.
That's true,
that's
but
a given.
From the last meeting, I understand that these guys did come in and try to put a permit in, and Becky refused it because the structure was already up. And I could imagine Becky doing that. I'm not going to take your money; it's already up. It's a violation. The problem is, while you guys didn't follow the processes we would have liked, we were complicit in the process not being followed because we didn't do our job. And
now the other side of the coin though is because typically the reason why they have the setbacks is for fire. Tom knows that, of course. You want that. The good thing is the structure is quite a ways away from the other house, so that maybe it's not as critical as it could be. That's kind of a plus on your side. I'm kind of looking at it both ways. Like if we did approve it, you have that distance away from the other house. You still have access through through the carport to get to the back if there was a fire or emergency.
Yeah.
That's what it's really for.
Well, understand we've directed other people to take stuff down in the past where it's not compliant, but my assumption is with those, and I don't know all of the specifics behind those, but I'm assuming that they just went ahead, did something without talking to anybody. You guys talked to somebody. I mean, Becky's note here says on the 13th of December, you called and asking about a carport and wanted to talk to Gary, and she got Gary in touch with you guys, and so the village had then engaged and had a conversation with you, and it doesn't, at least in my mind, it doesn't sound like we throttled you back a little bit and said, hey, we got a process, you have to follow our process. Do that, and everything else then probably would work out. I mean,
If that would have been said, we wouldn't even be sitting here today, or a month and a half ago.
Yeah, I can imagine that, and I do.
I wouldn't put that kind of money into that and have it sit there with maybe it would have to be taken down.
No, I got it.
No, I worked way too hard to
Yeah,
something like
it's
that.
just trying to find the right piece of paper. I probably muddled these up a little bit, but there's one that, you know, Gary is clearly saying, yeah, I approve construction, and now it's up to the rest of the village to approve a variance or whatever. So it really should have been done by him. It's not up to him just to say, go ahead and build it, and then, oh, by the way, it doesn't meet the requirements, now you gotta figure out a way to fix that after I told you it's okay. So my initial perspective here is that by Gary giving you a tacit approval, it's okay. Maybe not meaning it that way, or maybe expecting that you were not going to do anything immediately.
I broke this thing down to exactly where I was putting it, or where I wanted to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't ask Gary what was in your head. We tried, and Gary not available to provide any information. So, you want to talk about, you know, we did talk to the village attorney. You want to go over that a little bit?
Well, yeah, we did talk to Vorsky and kind of discuss about this case, you know, what are our options, and of course, you know, he wanted to know all the facts, and it sounds like he, you know, sometimes you want to err on the side of like the homeowners, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt. Do we want, if we did turn it down, what are the consequences of that? Is the village going to get sued? You know, those kind of issues. And
right. From
my take on talking to Jeff, it's really still going to be up to us.
Oh,
we have a duty really to act ourselves.
We do, and there's
and I think we've done a lot of background and a lot of discussion about if was our inspector wrong.
Right.
But again, still that we know that the process wasn't followed. There never really was a permit issued, and Gary, it sounds like he erred on it. Right. You know, without saying he erred on it, but it looks like he did. So now what do we do? Are we kind of force the hand and say, well, we have to give it to them? Or are we going to say, well, you know what, it really wasn't followed, we really should say no?
Right. So we did talk to Jeff Bohorski, a village attorney. Jeff's been through this stuff with other municipalities. He does not view this as a significant issue from the standpoint of planning and zoning. When we told him that you had two neighbors here that said it wasn't an issue with either of them, plus the fact that we've got correspondence from you that seems to indicate that you got approval to do it, and nothing back from Gary, the village attorney, suggested. Nobody's going to get better out of this thing, so this is maybe one that we're going to potentially, it's up to the board here, potentially accept the variance, require you to have it inspected to get a confirmation that it's been put in the right way. I know the thing isn't done yet, it's still sitting unfinished, but to get that inspection, that may be one way to do it. There's potential other things that we could do. One of them would be to tell these folks to take it down, but without doing something, communicating back to the village as a ZBA that says, hey village, you screwed up your own process and you are part of the problem here. Um, you know, that is potentially a way to go.
Well, there's another, you know, option that we have. You could actually say cut it back, which I know they don't like that idea, but cut back so you get the 6 feet. You know,
Yeah.
it would completely mess up the structure.
Yes, that's,
But again, you do have that fire separation now, because that house is so much farther away, I'm not sure, it's 10 feet away or something from the edge of your property, or 9 feet?
Dean's house?
Yeah, next door.
He's all of 11, 12 feet
So
away.
you've got quite a bit of distance,
it's a
fire
distance.
separation wise, it's not gonna be a issue part, you know,
Yeah.
they've got that part, but
yeah.
it's just all on the neighbor's property. Now, it's not.
And it's not
they're sharing
enclosed,
it.
it's a pass-through, so there's nothing stopping.
Right.
Yeah. You know,
Access, yeah.
I've looked at this a little bit, and when I was on planning, and generally what courts do is courts generally want to side with the property owner, because at the start of it all, it's your property. It's not our property, it's your property. Communities plan and zone for reasons that Dennis is talking about, fire issues, health issues, overcrowding. There's a lot of reasons why communities plan and zone, but if the community's going to do that, then it's incumbent upon the community to follow their own policy and process. That's the part that I have a hard time here with, and somehow, some way, the word has to, you know. And I look at the year and a quarter it's taken to figure this out. Now in November, we did send a letter to council. I never got any response back from anybody about the fact that we're seeing stuff that's hanging out here for extended period of time. Why is this stuff not resolved?
Because you have no the village council has no jurisdiction over the CBA. You're a quasi-motor court, you have more power than the council does.
I understand that, Joe, but this isn't necessarily the ZBA, a ZBA issue. They have control over the building inspector and the code enforcer and the administrative clerk that does all this stuff. Somebody there should have got everybody together, you know, right after the structure went up and said, hey, we're having a meeting, we're going to resolve this, and, you know, before the concrete dried.
You're putting too much weight on council. You are in the same position today that you were in the day after he talked to the building inspector. The building inspector said, I like it. Go get a building permit. That's still never been done.
That's not what he said.
These guys,
That's not what he said, and then that's not true. I was in here multiple times trying to get a
building permit. You haven't done it.
Please, let's hold our comments.
yeah. My understanding from the last meeting is he did tell these guys, go get a
Exactly.
you know, put in a site plan, and they tried to do it, it sounds like, and Becky refused them because the structure was already up.
There again, they put it up without procuring that building permit
He
and putting
didn't
in their
say to
site
get it
plan.
before we put it up. He approved it and said we could build it and just make sure you get, then apply for the plan. That it was,
Yeah.
he approved it. And he is village council, and he approved it and then said go get it. Because Tom works during that time and he was putting it up over the weekend.
Yeah.
And that's why I called him. He was very clear on it. And if he didn't, if there was, and he wasn't the right, he'd be sitting here today, or he'd have written his statement.
Here's I think I found what I was looking for before. So, Tom, you know, you look at the sequence of events as Becky's related based upon her messages and conversations that she had and emails and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure Becky's accurate, because that's kind of how she is. But so we've got, you can see where I think Dennis noticed that there was an issue. Dennis asked about it. Got Tom involved. Tom wrote letters. But then you guys started talking with Tom Urbane, who is the code enforcer. And so here's something in May. I'm talking to Tom Urban, and he's getting ready to write me a ticket. He said, I need to reach out to you and figure out what we need to do to make it work. So Gary comes back, I approve the plans, the build, and the final. It's the village's call from here. So I personally believe that Gary didn't do what he should have done.
Final?
Yeah, it says it in text,
That's Gary's.
because we stopped talking on the phone because people are lying.
How do you have a final when you don't even have a permit?
Yes.
I agree, that's out of order.
Joe, this is what
That's
I'm
what our
saying.
attorney said.
We-
We also spoke to an attorney.
The village has a process. We did not follow our process. So while I don't mind thunking these guys on the head because they didn't follow our process, we have to follow our own process, and we didn't do it. So it's just difficult for me to say, you guys got to go do something now because of miscommunications by the village, and where I can clearly see the village didn't follow our own process. And then on top of that, it takes a year and a half to get this resolved. It should have been resolved, like you said, the day after.
Exactly.
And nothing happened. And the ZBA is not even in it until there's an appeal. So, and I see multiple opportunities to have resolved this right then and there, and we didn't do it. And the first one to resolve it would have been Gary saying, I like the plans, but don't do anything until you get a site plan in. He clearly, in my mind,
Right.
clearly didn't say that. So,
But let's,
so how do I go and tell these guys now to take something down?
let's keep it within our group here. Let's not go back and forth with Joe. So how do we?
Dennis, excuse me, I am the commissioner for both the code.
Thank you very much. We're trying to discuss something here. Thank you, I appreciate that. Well, what I'm trying to say is like, how do we approach this now? Do we say, okay, sorry about this, we're gonna let you go ahead and have it? Is it that much detriment to the village, or is it gonna be not a problem?
Yeah, I think Jeff suggested it's not a significant zoning violation, especially where you got two neighbors that appear to be okay with it, and it appears from all indications that from a construction standpoint there's no issues, although despite the fact that Gary says he's got a final, we have nothing on record, so we should probably get it on record. The thing for me in the future is to find ways to ensure this kind of thing doesn't happen again, and that's pretty simple to me. The village just has to follow its own process. So it may be that you guys get a gimme. It's not that, you know, what happened here is the way we want to do it, and it's not the right way, but is it significant enough of an issue to, now that you've put the effort into it, done all the work and waited a year and a half now to tell you to take it down, in the attorney's mind, he says, give it to them and fix your process.
Well, there's a couple options we have. We could vote to deny it totally.
Yeah.
We have another option of saying, we can approve it with the option to have outside inspector come in and evaluate it and approve it.
Yep.
We could just approve it all together without any, or we could approve it pulling back, cut off 6 feet to get that 6 foot setback. So, any other comments for anybody?
Yeah.
You have any comment?
I done a lot of talking. What do you guys think?
I was expecting to get more information from the village side. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any more to get at this point. That's the most of the follow-on information after the initial approval and things were done in December was just back and forth of how do we tackle this and who gets it down, and then it was, you know, you guys came before council, and there's a suggestion that you know, if council said it was okay, then it's okay. Like you said, council's really got nothing to do with it. Should have stayed in the planning side.
And that's what council did, they handed it back.
Well, council didn't do anything with it, but I don't know if you guys came to council on your own, or it was suggested you come to council. It's just kinda not the way it's supposed to work, but, so,
History is done, so we now
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
to,
yeah.
now we have to pick up the pieces and make a decision, yea or nay, you know?
yeah, I just, I like like's not a good word. I don't like any of this. This is embarrassing. But I think we gotta give it to them. I do think we need to inspect it officially. Noted that it's a variance that does not meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance, but make sure the structure is sound, so that's your outside inspector. I don't know that you guys would have an issue with that. Again, you got two neighbors. Do you know about the neighbor behind you, if he has any concerns or issues about it?
No, they said they would come if they needed us to.
I mean,
To come. The one directly, because we have one like kind of weirdly directly.
yeah, you may
behind us
be
and that.
splitting or something.
And the other one, we don't know, because they just moved.
Yeah, I'm more concerned with the one kind of in line.
They said that they would come, but they have younger kids, so they.
Yeah.
It pretty much directly affects people on each side, though.
Yeah,
If
yeah, that's-
the one on the west, really.
yeah, that was just the attorney's recommendation. If everybody around you doesn't have an issue, you know, a lot of why we do that in the first place is because you get neighbors that really don't want something, but you know, when something's done, then they don't want to be the bad guy and come in and say something. But both your neighbors spoke up for you, and I would think they would just say, I don't have a problem, but I'm not sure.
So we've gotten quite a bit of information. With that, we should be able to make some kind of decision.
Oh,
Does the board have anybody want
I think we can.
to make a motion?
I've got a motion I would make, but I'd like to know what you guys are thinking.
Like I said, I was expecting something from the village side of it, but we're not getting any information at all, so I have to take this side of the story as being the instruction that was given, so the village dropped the ball. They did not follow the procedure like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So there's something was going awry there.
I think the decision was pretty much cut and dry, that it was going to be a no. Although it is a very nice structure, it does look very nice on the house. But now that we've seen evidence that he actually gave them approval, that's,
Right.
it's not even hearsay, it's in writing.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the little bit of evidence that we did get.
Right.
Yeah.
Not, not to the effect that they told them not to do it.
So we could make a motion saying, we'll approve it contingent on an outside inspector approving it, the construction, we could do that, actually pulling a permit, and actually have that person doing it. If we wanna go that route, that's one option. Again, the fire separation part is, he's got enough between that structure and the outside.
Yeah.
I agree with you totally, I was gonna definitely vote no on this thing, but we don't really wanna hurt John Q. Citizen when we have a problem.
Yeah.
The in writing
In
is what
enforcement.
it's just,
And I just a little background, when someone comes to me for a building permit, I still do it in a couple communities. I said, give me a drawing, maybe I don't really know what you're doing. Draw it for me, let me see what we're doing, throw an application. So, you know, Gary may not have had time to do that, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But that should be done that way.
Well, we talked a little bit before the meeting, he had a great example of Ray and your floodplain
Yep,
issue.
yep.
Or was it Ray or it's Lennox?
Lennox, the guy comes in for a pole barn on a vacant lot, which is acceptable in Lennox, but we're looking at it closer, it's like the whole thing is floodplain, the whole thing.
Right, and so it probably,
It's like, oops, we have a problem.
so it probably saved him. I mean, because if there would have been an issue, then whatever he had in there could have been damaged and the building could have been damaged.
Yeah, we just wouldn't issue the permit, so yeah.
The
So anyway, getting back to our case
Yeah.
though, what are we gonna do? Do we wanna make a motion and vote on it? We wanna do a trial motion or?
I can make a motion, let me try to do that. Now, it just gets interesting because we got 4 people, so we don't have Mike here, which would be a tiebreaker from one side or the other. So Dennis and I did discuss that a little bit too. The way that kind of works is if it's a tie, then the motion fails. But then the logical counter, if that's a tie, then that motion fails. And so
Well, let's see what happens with it.
well, I'm going to kind of write it. So a motion would be to allow the carport, despite the fact that it's does not meet side yard setback, but require did you want an outside or just a construction inspection? Maybe that's the way to say it.
Well, it would be an outside inspector, yeah. It would, nobody in the village should do it here.
Okay.
Have a third party come in and say, good or bad, you know.
Structural inspection.
Yeah, say a third party at which point, if it passes, it's approved.
Right.
All right, cool.
With the building permit, yeah.
Do you want them to submit anything other than what they've already submitted?
Well, the application for a building permit and then the set of plans that they had, so the inspector could see that.
All right, with application for a building permit. And what was the other? With application for a building permit. So that's why this is tough to do on the spot.
Pressure's on. You can do it.
Trying to think of all of the bits and pieces. So approve the carport. Despite the fact that it does not meet the zoning side yard setback.
Variation required.
Is
Actually,
there a better way to do it?
Actually, we're approving 6 feet.
Yeah, but I don't know that we want to get into that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say approve the carport. This is been a long day. Can't dredge up the words. Carport.
Yes, it is.
It's better if I don't talk and write at the same time. All right. So I'm just going to try this out here. We approve the carport with its side yard setback violation contingent upon having a third-party construction inspection and homeowner submitting an application for building permit. There was another piece.
Obtain a building permit with plans.
Permit with plans. Okay.
How
That's
does that sound
satisfactory?
to you guys?
All right, not gonna make a motion just yet. I'm gonna read it one more time, make sure we're not missing anything. So it would be a motion to approve the carport with its side yard setback violation contingent upon third-party construction,
Switch that.
I'm sorry?
I think you should switch those. The application needs to come before the third party inspection.
Oh, yeah, continued upon, yes, thank you. Upon homeowner obtaining a building permit with plans and a third-party construction inspection. I'm pretty confident it's gonna pass. I mean, looks like the next tornado is not gonna take it out, so. That sounds acceptable language to everybody? I mean, you can still vote no, I just wanna make sure that whatever I put out there makes sense. All right, then with that, I would make a motion to approve the carport with its side yard setback violation contingent upon the homeowner obtaining a building permit with plans and a third-party construction inspector.
So you wanna make that as a motion? As a motion?
Yeah, I
Okay,
did.
do we have a second? We have a discussion? Do we have a second?
Is that a second? I mean, you can still have discussion if you second it.
You wanna discuss it anymore?
Okay, so we moved and seconded, now we have discussion.
Okay, any final? I guess what I would say again is we're doing this because of the village's screw up. Somehow we've got to communicate back to the village that it needs to look at how it does business.
Well, this is kinda like you get a speeding ticket and the cop doesn't show up.
Right.
You were speeding.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. But I don't want, the thing that we want to make sure of is other people don't go out, do the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing could happen if the next building inspector goes, oh yeah, plans look great, and doesn't, the first thing out of his mouth should be, you gotta submit a site plan, and I'm gonna review your construction plans, and I'm gonna review it against the zoning ordinance. First thing out of their mouth. What else do you wanna talk about? Well, if I dig the footers, 4 feet deep, is that good, or whatever? So, it's just making sure we follow our process that keeps everybody out of trouble. And we probably need to have a discussion with the building inspector and code enforcer and maybe others that you can't let stuff like this just go on forever. You got, the time to fix it is right away, and not do this, and council absolutely shouldn't get involved in it. That's why we have these.
Well, we can't solve the world's problems here.
Well, we can, but I mean, we gotta, I would like to be able to communicate that to council,
Right, I understand.
otherwise it could easily happen again.
Yeah.
I don't know if when we get these officials, anybody ever sits down and says, here's the zoning ordinance, make sure you understand it, here's construction code, so you gotta do both of these. It sounds like,
It gets you in trouble a lot.
well, it sounds like Gary, he knew his stuff, but he was focused on one set of documents and not the other.
And some communities have inspectors and zoning people, so
Could be something.
sometimes the inspector will review the construction side, and then the zoning person will look at the zoning if it meets the zoning.
Yeah.
So it's been moved and seconded. We have any more discussion? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So is that an aye on yours?
Yes.
Okay, I've got an aye. So it's had, motion passed.
That was all.
Yes.
Well, I do want to take a minute and Steve Clark, council member, who's sitting in the audience. Any thoughts from you?
Well, it does open us up to future things. You okayed this, why can't I do it? That's all.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's been a concern.
If the village follows procedure in the future, we won't have a problem.
Is there an opening for a village inspector?
There is.
There is.
We got somebody who's really qualified, now we know all the rules.
We,
You expressed concern, I know, 4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago, yeah.
we are thinking maybe it's a good idea to have somebody who's not from the village, because if you're
Yeah.
telling your neighbors what to do, I mean, it should be easy in my mind. The rules is rules. And we have a process to change rules, and we have a process to appeal. The quickest way to get you into trouble is if you just kind of run roughshod on them. And Steve's right.
Unauthorized text messages that give homeowners the okay to do things that are not okay.
There is also text messages in there from him to say to go to you guys. That's why we went to the meeting, because then he told us to do that. We were told to do that, and then the text messages said that there would be no problem. He doesn't see that you guys would approve it. So I mean, we were just sent all on this wild
No,
goose chase.
I get that.
So.
I was told that the village will approve the changes you are making. I'm told the village will approve. It's, just go and talk to these people. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I've talked to Becky a few times in here, and she's the one who told me to come and talk to the president. So I came to that meeting.
We're just trying,
Yeah.
hopefully it gets resolved.
Let me be clear, we are not opening the village to anything, the village is open to itself. So nobody point the fingers at this group.
No, no.
That's why you follow process. And
Right.
if the process doesn't work, then you change it.
So let's say a message here, so we've approved that. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 29th meeting? Has everybody had a chance to read those?
That was the first,
From the one that we,
that was the preceding appeal, or
Yeah, this one,
before
yeah.
we continued.
for the public hearing, though, is how we wanted that stated. They're not minutes. Approve the minutes of the.
The
Oh,
ones
hearing,
from, the
February
minutes of
29th.
the ZBA appeal, so this is the one that's got the staple in it. Do you-
Right, but you're, on the agenda, you wanted it changed so that it is not an approval to the regular semi-annual.
It's to say
Cor- correct.
Yeah.
It's approving these.
So then, motion to approve the minutes of the ZBA public hearing, February 29, 2024.
It's been moved, do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? It passed, okay. Any citizen comments?
Thank you, and we're sorry for this debacle.
It's been an interesting
We're
one.
sorry.
Any board comments? Any?
The only thing I would say is, because hopefully we get to go back to sleep now and don't have a meeting for another 6 months, which is usually what happens. But do you want to put any correspondence back to the village council and planning commission on this, or do you just want to talk to them?
No, I think we need to do exactly what we're saying they're not doing. We need something in writing where we have requested supervision.
Some kind of review, yeah. Well, again, some people need to do just an inspector and then a zoning person. So the zoning could say, all right, I'll look at the plans, oh yeah, it meets it, or it doesn't, there's a problem. It might be construction, but not the zoning setback.
But I've been discussing this thing with village council members, with my own planning commission. I've mentioned it here with us on ZBA. Talking about it gets nothing done. And that's what we're saying has happened. The council dropped the ball. Things were in writing that shouldn't have been in writing. Put it in writing. We're all approved the letter.
So you guys, you wanna write a letter, we can write a letter, have
Absolutely,
everybody review it?
absolutely.
We can send it out in your emails, all that.
Yes.
Yeah,
What
what I
if
would,
we both could
Yeah.
compose one? and
yeah, I
review
would,
it?
I'd propose to write something, I'll let Dennis take a look, and then if he's happy, we can send it out. But what it would simply say is it would broadly discuss the issue. I don't want to go into the details, but I just want to point out that we not following our own process causes us issues, and we need to take care to ensure that people that have authority to do things for the village, like the building inspector and code enforcer, understand what their guidance is, and if they don't, they gotta ask questions. And I don't know that we have any kind of orientation for them. I think we just hire them, give them a book and send them on their way, and then they're out there doing whatever they think is best. I mean, you guys commented that the code enforcer doesn't really act unless somebody calls in an issue and
But, yeah, that's what Tom told me.
I mean, I don't wanna wait until my neighbor's grass is 10 feet tall before I call somebody. I shouldn't have to do that. That's why I got a code enforcer who says, well, maybe 3 feet tall is a little bit too much.
And that's really a council policy, right? So some communities have their code enforcer go out at will, others wait for that complaint process. So it really varies whatever the community wants,
Yeah.
you know?
I would just say, we try to work with everybody here. I'm the water commissioner. We try to give everybody an opportunity to fix it. We don't want to go over there and turn their water off. We don't want to write them tickets. We try to work with people. There's some people that don't want to work with anybody, and they're just going to give you a hard time until you hit them with a hammer. And so we try to be fair, but I think we have these people. They should be following a certain script for doing their job. So.
Well, and that's gonna cause, our decision tonight is gonna cause, in my opinion, a backlash, because we have allowed them to keep this. It doesn't meet anything as far as our ordinances are.
Well, the side yard setback is an issue.
We need the village to understand the position that they put us in. We have things in writing from a village official that states they could go ahead and do this.
I don't have, I'm with you. I don't want to create more problems, but the way we create those problems is following our process. When we don't follow the process, then issues like this happen. So this isn't an open invitation for people to go out and violate stuff.
Exactly.
I clearly hear what Steve is saying, but those things won't happen if we enforce our codes and we follow our planning and zoning process. It's pretty clear in there what they're supposed to do, and we just got officials that weren't doing that, and then that's going to cause issues. And so if we set these guys off on the right foot to begin with by telling them you have to follow this process, don't deviate from the process. Doesn't mean that you can't discuss plans and all that, but no, you can't put a shovel in the ground really, because it's at your risk then, unless you get this approved. Once it's approved, then everything looks good, then go for it. But
So your thought is having a zoning reviewer, is that what are you calling that person? Is that what somebody to review the zoning on it? Is that what your thoughts were?
Well, I think we just need to have someone that kind of ensures that the building inspector and the code enforcer are actually,
they're synchronized and they're following the.
they're not giving okays
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
everything is met. Before a permit is pulled, before a site plan is in.
I would say there's ways to do it, but I'm just gonna
Well, I know-
direct this kind of at Steve. Something that has been discussed a little bit is to have somebody on council in charge of building inspector, code enforcer, administrative management of planning and
I
zoning.
just told you guys,
Pardon?
I am that person.
You are looking after the code enforcer now.
And the building inspector.
I hadn't
that's
heard
your-
that. I
that's
had
your
heard
assignment.
that
I
you
told
were.
you that the last meeting, that I was recently appointed to that.
I must have missed it. I remember Dave Conan saying, look after the code enforcement, but not the building inspector. Well, then if you're it,
And you didn't let me
then
finish
it's
talking.
easy.
Problem solved.
Then it's easy.
So,
Well,
Problem
we're
solved.
lucky, for example, 2 meetings I work at, I see the planner all the time. And I can easily write them or call them and say, hey, I got a problem, what do you think about this? So bounce it off that person who's a real professional, not to say we're not, but just get their opinion, eh?
Well, then,
But you don't wanna be calling planning all the time either, when it can be resolved here.
well, it's just,
well, it
Just a
would be
matter of
good to
having
know
a
that
talk.
all of the code enforcers know how to use the Michigan state of Michigan construction codes.
Right.
In the interview process, when we appoint someone, I think there's some questions that should be asked.
Well, so I must have missed the fact that you had been, and I know that that's fairly recent. Like I say, I missed the fact that then that you were in charge of building.
Yeah.
And I got great confidence in you because of your time on zoning and planning. Then, Christie, maybe we don't do anything. We just, because Joe's been part of all this. Maybe we leave it up to you. I mean, is there something you can bring back to council and just say, I'm gonna do X and Y with these officials to make sure that they kind of understand what their marching orders are?
Just remind them to follow the rules. That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big drawn out thing,
The reason we would have done something like this, Joe, to put a letter out there is to make something happen, but if you view yourself as that person, then I'd say we don't really need to do anything. You're seeing what's going on here and would take the appropriate steps to make sure that we do follow our own process, or change it if it's not working. Right. I don't know that we need to do anything then, if Joe's got it. What do you think?
But you might want to still set up the system though, that she makes sure that they actually, if the inspector does review something, that she's gonna see it and look at the zoning and setback. Not whatever the zoning is, you know.
Right.
You're not gonna put a garage, a service station in a residential area.
Yeah, but it's
something foolish like that.
In my mind, Joe, it's just, you're providing administrative oversight, and probably the first thing you're gonna do is hit Tom and whoever the new guy is over the head with a baseball bat. You will follow the process. Do not deviate, right? And then,
I think Tom Urban did.
Pardon?
I said, I put phone calls, I talked with both, I think Tom Urban did follow the process.
Oh, he might have. It's more.
I think actually over and above.
The issue is with Gary.
Yes.
And again, it's.
And I think that needs to be part of it as well. When we do have an issue like this, why were they not here?
We've asked them twice for statements. I got nothing.
They both feel like they've been kind of bantered back and forth and beat up by the village.
But I asked them for statements before we did anything.
And I'm sorry, but in my mind, he's a builder. He knows the process.
I could be a restaurant worker. What difference would it make?
Because you're not having a violation against the french fries that you're cooking.
I'm a homeowner in the village of Armada who got an okay from a village official. What does it matter what I do for a living?
The fact that you're aware of the process.
And we live across, like what Tom Urban said, that we can stand on our driveway and we can see code enforcement issues right in the house across the street, the campground that is set up across Kitty Farm that people are living in all summer long.
Excuse me, you know that's mine.
We've already passed it.
I did not know that was yours.
You called and made a complaint.
Let's have this after the meeting.
I don't even know, I never called you.
You didn't call me, you called the village.
Please, let's discuss this after.
No, the village called me about my pool.
So,
I don't know who you are.
All right, everybody.
need order for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. We have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
All right, so that
Meeting
was.
at 8:05.